right, guys, we're back. It's another episode of the Fearless Pursuit of Freedom podcast. And I've got another high-level entrepreneur on the show today. And I forgot to ask you how long you've been in the real estate business, but I assume it's quite a long time. But I'd like to welcome you guys to Rob Swanson here out of Colorado. And he's going to bless us with all of his knowledge and wisdom in real estate. And we're all going to get learned today.
That's right. Hey, what's up, Brandon? Thanks for having me on, man. Yeah, about 20 years I've been in the game. And
really?
Yeah, started in the late 90s and screwed it up for about 3 years before I got a little bit of education under my belt and then took it from there.
That's awesome. That's only 10 times longer than I have been in it. So just a little bit longer.
Awesome.
Well, cool. So you started in the early 90s. What made you get into real estate?
You know, that's a great question. I'm wired as an entrepreneur. I'm wired as a high D, if you're familiar with the DISC test, type A personality. And so from the time I was 15 years old, I told everybody that I was going to be the CEO. I didn't know of what. And I always said of an engineering company. I went to college for engineering out of high school, graduated with an engineering degree, got my professional engineering license. But I always thought, you're young, you're early 20s, and you always think you can do it better than the guys that have been there, done that. And so I'm constantly looking for, what do I want to do? And, what am I going to get into? What business can I own? And so I looked at everything from stocks, bonds, commodities, real estate, franchises, the internet, you name it. I looked at it, and I ended up at a seminar down at the Marriott Hotel in Denver on a Wednesday night, 7 p.m., sitting in the audience as a pretty conservative engineer type, listening to this guy on stage. And he just made sense. Like I didn't feel like I was like, I think I can do that, because he was just telling me how to do step by step and the benefits. And I'm like, yeah, real estate, man, I think I can do it. Engineering background, it seems kind of similar. All of my clients are developers and real estate guys. And so I jumped in, and that was my path. When I was an engineer, I was that weird engineer that always wanted an expense account so that I could go out for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with my clients and figure out what they were doing. Because I realized they're sitting on the side of the table making millions, and I'm sitting on the side of the table building hours. And I wanted to get to the other side of the table, and that was it, man. So I'm a product of the education seminar business.
It's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, I think that snags us all. It's we either saw something on TV, we attended the seminar, we read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and just bought it hook, line, and sinker. I mean,
totally.
And growing up, I think a lot of us envisioned the wealthy lifestyle. And if you look at the top, 1,000 1%ers, they either are in full-time real estate or they take all the money out of their other business to put in real estate. So it's a very safe. Well, I can't say safe. It's a good niche to be in for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's almost fair to say safe if you have a long-term view on things, right? It's the guys that go in for short-term get-rich-quick gains that often get their butt handed to them. But if you have a long-term play and do it right, learn some basics, right? Real estate's great.
Yeah. So it's been 20 years. I'm sure you've done a lot of different niches. Where'd you start? And kind of give us a glimpse of, like for me, I started wholesaling. Now I'm into flipping, holding, and finally, I think today or tomorrow, I'm closing on my first apartment. How did that evolve, and what's it look like today, and why have you progressed and stuff like that?
Yeah, no, great. Good question. So when I first got into the business, I thought what I was going to do is, do some land development. It's what I knew. I was a civil engineer. I had a license. That was my clients. So I went in and I negotiated this absolutely killer contract. I didn't know what I was doing. I just had sales ability. I had ability to just engage with people, hear what their concerns were, solve their problem. And so I negotiated a contract to buy 78 acres of land just north of Denver here. And I structured it with a rolling option. And heck, man, I just made all this stuff up on the fly thinking, I can just write this down on a contract, my terms, and somebody will figure out how to close it.
Yeah, right.
And so I just negotiated this thing, really low price. And then every phase, as we built out, the price went up, and they got basically all their money after I had made all of my money. And so it was a structured deal. At the end of the day, here's what I learned. I didn't have the knowledge or the credibility yet to go get the capital to do the deal. I didn't have the pockets to make it happen. And I didn't understand that I could have just assigned my contract. I didn't know, man.
Yeah.
I had the sweetest land development deal negotiated ever. I guarantee I could have sold it to a developer and put $100,000 in my pocket.
Right.
But I didn't know. And so I made that switch then and that was that 3 years before I got educated. And then I ended up in that seminar, and the guy talks about wholesaling, and he talks about owner financing, and he talks about all these things. And some of it I knew, but I was like, this wholesaling thing, what the heck is he talking about?
Mm-hmm.
I could sell my contract. And the light bulb goes on and said, I walked away from $100,000 payday on that land deal because I didn't have the knowledge.
Right.
And so that I didn't walk out of that seminar without saying, I'm going to get some knowledge today.
Yeah.
So I was the guy at the back of the room. I signed up. I got into wholesaling. And what I learned is, so I went to a wholesaling training, and I realized, man, it comes down to two things. It comes down to making offers and talking to sellers. And I'm like, okay, I came back out of that boot camp, and I made 70 offers that next week. Some off market, some on market. And I'm driving down the road on 6th Avenue down in Lakewood, Colorado. And I see this sign up on the side of the road, and it says for sale by owner. And I'm like, sweet. That's exactly what I'm looking for, right?
Right.
So I spin off on the Garrison exit. I flip around. I follow the signs. I walk up to this little brick house. I knock on the door. And mind you, I've learned what the concept of wholesaling is. I really don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done this before. And I knock on the door, and this nice, sweet little old lady walks up, and I said, hey, ma'am, I noticed your home is for sale. Do you have a minute to chat about it? And she says, I do. And long story short, she was home alone. She wanted her daughter there. I said, great. Let me just look around outside, and let me, tell me what the condition is, blah, blah, blah. Her husband had died. She was living there. She was moving into an assisted living facility just to make life easier. I ended up buying this thing. This is the funny part, man. I had no idea the difference between a mortgage and a deed of trust at the time. Like, I didn't know anything, right? Yeah. I was dumber than the guys who are fearful of taking action all the time because they don't know anything. I didn't know. So I made her an owner financed offer. She said she wanted $250,000. So I made her an owner financed offer. And all I did, man, is I took a 1-page contract, and I wrote the terms of what her payment structure was going to be in the additional terms. I had no idea how to do anything else. And I showed her that if I didn't pay her off for 7 years, with the interest I paid her, she would get her $250,000. But I really bought the house for $170,000. Yeah. And long story short, she accepted the contract, put all the paperwork together. I took it to the title company, and it was all written as a mortgage. And the title company looked at it and said, we do deeds of trust in Colorado, right? Not mortgages. And I said, no, I had no idea. Can you fix it? And they're like, yeah, we'll fix it. And I said, okay, do I need to do anything to make that fix? And they're like, no, we'll take care of it. We closed that deal. She paid all the closing costs. She paid me $5,000 at closing. I had already resold the property on a lease with an option to a guy who put $7,000 down. So I'm $12,000 up at this point, and I got about a $500 a month cash flow spread. Yeah, and that was my first creative deal. And from there, I ended up with 3 other contracts that I wholesaled in the next 45 days and made $42,000 on just flat wholesale deals. And so that was my entry into the business. And I was like, after that, I was like, okay, I'm hooked.
Right. Yeah. That's funny. My first wholesale was 42,000. And then your first three equal 42. So that's a strange coincidence. But yeah, same deal for me is I had no idea what I was doing. I did a couple, JV partnerships where I either found a house and I had no idea what to do, and I found another investor that knew what to do, and we made things work. And then my first wholesale was like, holy crap, you want how much? Well, I didn't say that, but I was like, oh, okay, that sounds, I'm looking up on the phone, like, holy Moses. And so I contracted the same day, sold it in the next day, made 42,000 in a week. And I was like, real estate is for me.
Yeah, man. Real estate is for me. It's for you. It's for anybody. Like the margin, the high margin, the ability to create a lot of cash very quickly is what makes real estate so interesting. And then learning what do you do with that cash, putting it into long-term buy and holds for the cash flow and the appreciation. That's the deal, man.
Right. Yeah. No, I hear you. And then ever since then, I'm like, why can't they all be as easy as that first one? That's
Yeah. Well, that was the like next epiphany that I had, right? I'm like, this is so easy. Why doesn't everybody do this?
Right.
And then I had a 60-day dry spell and like nothing came together. My offers weren't accepted, title issues or whatever the case may be.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, okay. Here are the speed bumps. Here are the roadblocks. Here are the brick walls that you got to push through. And then I had another $20,000 payday.
Yeah.
And so I realized that what I had to figure out was, how do I create consistency in the model? How do I create consistency and not always live feast to famine?
Right. Yeah. That was my evolution. I've been about 2.5 years I've been in real estate, and that was my evolution. Was number one goal in the beginning was make money, and then I was like, oh, you can like spend all this pretty quickly. So then it was like, all right, so I need to figure out how to keep the money, and then it was how to cash flow. So that's my evolution now, is like get out of the transactional portion of real estate. So you got a sweet owner finance. You didn't know what the hell you're doing. You got 3 sweet wholesales, had a dry spell, got another payday. And then I assume that was within, it sounds like, the first 9 months or so. What was the next move?
Yeah. So what happened is the seminar company that I had learned from, back in the day, I mean, remember this is 20 years ago, I'm faxing in copies of checks, right? The email barely exists, smartphone is not even on the radar, no social media. So I'm faxing in copies of checks, and they call me one day and they're like, hey, if you keep faxing in checks, you're going to break our fax machine. And they're like, what are you doing? And I know people are laughing at the fax reference, right?
Yeah.
So what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm doing exactly what you guys told me to do. And they said, yeah, we know that. But like, what exactly that we told you to do are you doing? And I thought, oh my gosh, these guys, they don't even know what's working in this market. And so I ended up joining their mentoring team, and I started to travel around the country as a mentor on their team and coach. Every 2 weeks for about 1.5 years, every other week, I flew to a new city, dropped in, and helped that local real estate investor launch his or her business.
Right.
And here's what I started to see. I started to see that at any given time in the market cycle, one market is doing one thing, another is doing another. And my real aha moment came, I made a trip out to Tacoma, Washington, and we ended up in the hilltop area of Tacoma, Washington. And I was there probably in April, and it was run down. It was boarded up. It was pretty distressed, not a whole lot of activity. There were investors buying, but it wasn't like a bustling hot spot.
Right.
I went back in September, whatever that is, 5 months later, and all of a sudden there's roll-offs everywhere. There's fix and flippers, there's investors, things are being revitalized. And in a 6-month period of time, no kidding, and this was back in maybe 2002 or 3, I watched prices in this area, wholesale prices, retail prices, like skyrocket $50,000 to $75,000 over a 6-month period of time. Yeah. It was crazy. And I thought, well, okay, I'm not seeing that happen in my local backyard. It's happening here. what if I could participate in that in the places around the country where that's happening right now?
Right.
And so that started to inform my whole approach to real estate investing, where I sort of decoupled geography from my strategy years ago. Like in the early 2000s, I said, and it was only because I had the opportunity to travel and start to see different things. The other realization that I had was I would get off the plane and I'd get picked up by whatever student I was working with. And, you know, they're going to pick me up in either the 7 Series Beamer and they're looking real sharp, or they're going to pick me up in the broken down minivan and they just crawled out of the crawl space where they were doing some plumbing work, right? Two opposite ends. And, you know, on the surface, you could judge and you could say, well, the guy in the Beamer is going to be successful and the guy with dirty jeans and a broken down minivan isn't. But it was quite the opposite. What I started to realize was it was less about the person and it was more about the market that they were operating in, whether they had success quick or not. And so I started, like I said, to inform my own personal investing strategy based on those observations. And I tried to pick emerging markets where supply and demand were unbalanced, where I could see the constriction of supply forcing prices up. And I started to buy and sell across the country. And so you asked, what am I doing today? Well, we still do that to this day. That's how I approach everything, kind of based on where the cycle's at.
That's awesome. That's especially intriguing to me because Texas isn't for me. I'm a mountain man. I climb, alpine, mountaineering, mountain bike, hike, flying, as we discussed. And so we're looking to move out of Texas and hopefully by the summertime. But one of my fears, and the reason why I named the podcast Fearless Pursuit, is how do I get into a new market, or how do I stay in this market while in another state? So I'm glad we're talking about this. So
for sure.
I assume it didn't sound like you went into Tacoma, but as you chose new markets, did you have, say, boots on the ground, or was it all online? Did you couple with a realtor or broker, another wholesaler? Like, how did you? Yeah.
So, you know, back in the early days of doing it, there was no online, right? I would have to figure out how to get data from a local realtor. They would literally fax like 100 pages over to me of all this information.
Yeah.
And I would try to put it onto a spreadsheet and look at the information. Like, fast forward to today, and it's point and click, like, oh wow, there's all the data, right? And so through this whole process, you know, just the engineer background of me said, okay, I got to kind of figure out a system around this. And so what I created was a market ranking system that basically allows a wholesaler or a real estate investor to look at it and say, what market can I get into the fastest and skim a quick, easy deal off the top? Like, where is that honey hole of supply and demand balanced in such a way that I can get in and be the fastest to getting a deal? Because I'm a big believer in, you don't have to, the strategy isn't spend more money on marketing.
Yeah.
Strategy is spend smarter money on marketing.
Yeah.
And there's ways to sort of define what you spend, how you spend it, where you spend it, that are going to produce results faster. And so through the process, I started to track markets, and I was tracking. I built some early software that went out and scraped all this data around the internet, and I was tracking the supply, demand, price movement, inventory levels of like 8,000 cities, 43,000 zip codes around the country. And it was really, really awesome data. So I could go in and I could punch in, you know, show me a market where inventory is going down. And we created some ratios around population that if the inventory to population ratio hit a certain level, I could almost guarantee that if the trend was inventory is dropping, and once it hit a certain inventory to population ratio level, I could almost guarantee that within the next 3 to 6 months, prices were going to skyrocket.
Yeah.
And so we started doing that, and started getting in and wholesaling, buying and selling, buying and holding, and just playing the markets. And where we sit today in the market, I've been through the last crash. I've been through this last run up. We're back towards this top curve, right? And so today is a day where I believe the strategy is this: like you always want to buy at the bottom. I'm a big believer in two things. You can build wealth faster in real estate if you understand how to buy at the bottom, buy and hold. Yeah. And you can force appreciation even at the top if the market crashes, if you understand one thing, and that is owner financing. Yep. And so what I'm doing today in today's market, because I believe that the country as a whole has kind of hit some of its peak. If you look at affordability indexes, they're just, the amount of inventory that is below the affordability threshold across the country is pretty low. And so what I try to do today is go into markets that have historically flat appreciation. Okay. I break markets into two types. There's your cash flow markets and there's your retail markets. And the big difference is, well, there's a third, and that's a resort market, but we'll kind of set that across the side. Yeah. So your cash flow markets, historically, they go up and down very, very little as far as price movement and appreciation. Yeah. Your retail markets are like a Denver, like a Seattle, like a Minneapolis, where they've got big ups and crashes. And you can see that historically over the last 3 housing market crash cycles. And so today I'm buying in historically flat cash flow markets. I'm buying for cash flow. I'm holding for cash flow. And when the market crashes, I'm going to sell that inventory owner financing. Now, there's a reason I'm doing this, and this gets into kind of an overall strategy. But the reason I'm going to do that is because the things that have happened in the last 3 housing market crashes, the 70s, 90s, and the 2008 crash, 3 things happened in each crash. Number 1, there was stock market turmoil. Number 2, there was a presidential transition. Number 3, there was a financial policy change. And so the latter 2, the presidential transition and the financial policy change, drove the stock market turmoil. Yeah. And it was that stock market turmoil, the reduction of liquidity in the stock market, that really drove the prices down, because the banks no longer had the money to cycle, right? Yep. And so what happens then is real estate prices drop. But this is the cool part about it. In every single case, last 3 crashes, rents on single family houses went up. Yeah. Rents on single family houses went up. Now, apartments took a beating. Apartments dropped. Certain types of single family dropped, but cash flow, bread and butter, blue collar rental houses, rents went up. And so if you learn how to tie the value of the real estate you own to an owner financed sale versus a bank appraisal or bank financing, you can force appreciation even in a crash. So my plan is I'm going to sell all my assets, owner financing, on the tail of that crash, create a whole bunch of notes, and then who am I going to sell those notes to? Because my objective then is to create the liquidity, get back out of that, and go buy at the bottom and just ride the market back up. Right. Well, all of these stock market investors that are the frustrated stock market guys who suck the liquidity out of the market and are now sitting on cash, they don't want to own real estate, but they want to own paper. Right. And so I'm just going to sell all of my note package and portfolios to those guys, and then I'm going to go to the bottom of a recovery or a retail market and ride it back up. Yeah. So that's my strategy for where we are in the market cycle today.
Yeah, and we're dang near it because we got an election coming up.
Yep.
They're doing some crazy lending stuff right now, and I mean I've been in just this month alone 3 situations where the lenders have been super shifty: a VA loan, a conventional loan, and an FHA loan.
Yeah.
Something's going wrong in there, and just last year, before we decided to move to another state, we looked at buying in Texas, and they were offering us 3-month income stated, no tax return loans. And I was like, holy crap, we're not buying right now. Anyways, it's freaking weird out there, and it's coming. So I'm hopefully I can prepare for it. But okay, you talked about a lot right there, so I'm trying to unfold where we should go with it. But so right now, you said you have some stuff. You said Memphis earlier. Is that what you said?
Yeah. So I buy a lot. I buy a lot in Memphis. And here's why. So if we just take the overall kind of complicated strategy back down to real simple.
Yeah.
In today's market where prices are high,
right,
buy on cash flow. Like, do one of 2 things: wholesale real estate, and just generate cash. If you're just getting into the business, man, right now, even with all the regulations, legislation, all the stuff that's happening, guess what is the one constant in real estate investing, Brandon, for 20 years? Change.
Mm-hmm.
And so, this stuff has been happening for 20 years, and guys have come in the business, left the business, in the business, left the business, in the business, left the business. And there's those of us that look at change and say, well, that's just part of business. We just got to figure it out as we go, that are still here 20 years later. So if you're just getting into the business today, do one of 2 things. Take a position of, I'm going to get into the market and I'm going to generate cash. And most guys and gals find themselves, and I'm going to break this into 2 things, because the other is buy for cash flow. Right. So if you're in the business to say, I'm going to generate cash today, most people find themselves in highly competitive markets, very high priced markets. They find themselves trying to battle it out with other investors that have been there and seasoned, and they get frustrated and they give up. And so what I always tell people to do is decouple your geography. If you live in a highly competitive market, do business virtually. Yep. Do business remotely somewhere else. It's totally doable. Anybody can do it, and you can get in. I coached a guy, Chad, a while back, and he was in Denver, super competitive market. And he's like, Rob, but I feel like I've not ever done it before. He goes, I feel like if I can learn how to do it in my own backyard, then I'll be comfortable going somewhere else. And I'm like, look, man, I can teach it to you. I can't understand it for you. If you want to beat your head against the wall and struggle, you go ahead. Yeah. And so what happened is 9 months later, after he's beating his head against the wall, he's finally so frustrated. And he comes to me and says, okay, man, I think I'll just listen. What should I do? And I said, here's what you do. Boom, 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 boom. And he did it. And literally inside of 5 days, he flipped his first deal and put $5,000 in his pocket, because he got out of a super competitive market where he felt like he was spending tons of money and not getting any return, where sellers didn't want to sell at a discount, yada, yada, yada. Yeah. Got into a market where it was simple, and he started to generate cash, and building that cash then allowed him to start buying strategically and intelligently for cash flow. Because oftentimes those markets that are really good for wholesaling also tend to be really good for the buy and hold cash flow strategy. Right. And so you get to cherry pick the best deals. If you do that strategically, you now get to cherry pick the really sweetheart, good cash flow properties out and hold them for yourself, because you're generating cash. You understand the market. You're the deal guy. Yep. And you cherry pick your best ones. And so those are the 2 things that I would tell people to do. Even my own kids, right? So I've got 2 daughters that are out of high school and out of the house, and my son's a junior in high school right now. And they say, how do I get into real estate? And I say two things. Number one, you want to buy and hold long term, because wealth in real estate is built by buying and holding.
Yeah.
But before you start to buy and hold real estate, figure out how to generate cash. You've got to increase your income in some way, whether that's another business, whether that's a high paying job, whether that's the business of real estate investing and an active investment business. And so, number one, figure out how to increase your income. And number two, man, this thing is going crazy on me. Let me shut this Slack down.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. So number one, increase your income. And then number two, take that increase of income and get it into cash flowing real estate. Yeah. That's what I tell my kids to do. And so, they're out of college or out of high school, they're in college, they're students, right? So they don't have huge high paying jobs. So I've told them, you got to increase the income, and there's a couple ways to do it. And then buy the cash flow. Yeah.
Yeah. It took me, in my mind, I understood completely that was what needed to be done, was figure out the money, put in the cash flow immediately. But it was hard for me to figure out the long-term financing in the beginning. And for me, that was, first off, money, fixed credit, banks, or private money. And thankfully, I was able to find private money pretty quickly. And that's how I financed my first 3 rentals, and how I'm actually financing this apartment this week.
Nice. Private money is key, man. Like for everybody to understand. I'm not a big go to the bank guy.
Yeah.
I do everything that I buy. I use private money, and I don't like to go to banks. Like there's guys that tell me, oh, you should go to the banks and you should do X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, why?
Yeah. It's too much paperwork. I hate paperwork.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you say or recommend for somebody that wants to pick their first out of local immediate area marketing? Do you tell them you might as well just jump states, or a couple hours away, or is there any recommendation?
Yeah, well, it depends on where they live, right? Because they might live right where it's great. So if you live in a market that is, so I created what I call the True Rank market ranking system, and I rank markets across 5 categories, from hyper competitive to competitive to what I call the sweet spot, where it's a balance of inventory and activity, to oversupply to hyper oversupply. So like a hyper oversupply would be a Detroit today, right?
Yep.
A hyper competitive would be a Denver today.
Yeah.
And so what I look for is a market that blends that inventory and activity. I want to see enough investor buying activity blended with enough distressed inventory that I can launch some simple marketing lead generation campaigns and get deals in quickly from day one.
Yeah.
And that's what I look for. And so I've got, a variety of things that I teach people on how to do that. I teach the whole market, the virtual market system. But then it's just as easy. In fact, Brandon, it's easier, honestly, to run virtual than it is local, because when you're local, you know what your tendency is?
Drive there.
Let me jump in the car, truck, and let's go out there and look at it.
Yeah.
When you're virtual, you don't have that option. So you have to resort back to the system and just follow it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you find yourself with free time, which, you and I are all about. Like, I've been a rock climber for 25 years and into flying planes, and like freedom is a big deal.
Oh, yeah. It's a huge deal. It's the number one goal.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the number one goal for anybody, whatever the definition of freedom is. But yeah, I mean, that's awesome. That's that gets me all warm and fuzzy because I'm trying to leave Texas so I can get back to climbing. I mean, my freaking company logo is a climbing man. I just miss it so much, and I haven't been climbing in years, and it drives me nuts. But um, okay, so I had something. Oh, so you had mentioned when you were talking about the market going up and down and how single family went up in rents, but apartments go down. So I assume that means you're not super intrigued by the multifamily model. Is that a correct assumption? Have you stayed in
Well,
single family
yeah,
this whole deal?
yeah. So I like multifamily. I personally don't like I don't like multifamily in this market, in the
Yeah.
market cycle where we are today.
Right.
I'm buying more single family homes today than I am multifamily.
Okay.
But I do like affordable housing. I like mobile home parks.
Mm-hmm.
I've looked a lot at storage type units. It's never been something that I've invested in. I know single family real estate really well,
Right.
and I know cash flow parks and mobile homes and that kind of stuff really well.
Yeah.
And so I've always gone back to the things that I know. And the argument for like storage units is, in the crash, people need a place to put their stuff. They downsize from big house to small house. They go into storage units. I didn't see that in 2008 as much. I saw storage units go vacant and people just downsize and put stuff in a backyard and cover it with a tarp.
Right.
And so I've never gone the storage unit route. I've definitely gone the mobile home and affordable housing. And so like I buy stuff on the real low end of the market.
Yeah.
Typically not in the war zones, but definitely a D plus to C minus neighborhood is kind of what I like to buy in.
Yeah. That's kind of been. So there's two types of assets I prefer in my mind I would like to own. I see like you said, affordable housing being the safe area to be in because I don't know how other way to say it, but as shit rolls downhill. So
Right.
so as things start to go to shit, people, like I said, downgrade. So they go down from a 2-story to a single story, the single story to maybe an apartment or a mobile home or a double. So the rentals that I finally decided to pull the trigger on were 2 800 square foot houses and a 1,600 square foot duplex.
Yep.
With rents under 1,000. And but one thing I've had issues with was getting people to pay so far, and I've only owned them about a month and a half. But the reason I chose this apartment and the reason I decided to finally close on it versus assigning it was same deal. Right now, the rents can go up a little bit, but it's an all bills paid apartment complex at $600 a month, and that thing's always going to be full. There's always going to be a need for somebody that can only afford $600 a month, and I don't envision there ever being an issue with occupancy.
Right.
I think that's where I would like to stay. But then the other side of the coin was I would like a nice size portfolio of 1990 brick homes that rent for $1,500 to $1,800 because typically that's a more stable tenant, I would assume, blue collar tenant that can afford the $1,500 a month on a quality brick, newer construction asset. But I find those harder to find cash flow wise, to make the numbers work. And then ultimately the financing. It's way easier to finance a $40,000 to $60,000 house that brings in $1,000 a month than a $120,000, $150,000 house that brings in $1,500 a month.
Yeah, that's right. And that's where getting remote and getting into other markets will make a huge difference for you. You'll be able to get into that. Like my sweet spot is 900 to 1,100 rent.
Yeah.
I like to buy 3-bedroom, 1-bath, brick or stick, 1,000 square foot cracker box house made with a carport.
Yeah.
That rents for between $900 and $1,100 and needs less than $15,000 in repairs when I buy it.
Okay.
Like that's my sweet spot target. If I can buy that, and then here's what I do. I say, okay, that's my product. That's what I like to buy. Then I ask the question, what neighborhood is it in? And, is it in a neighborhood that's an A, B, C, D, or war zone type neighborhood? And it comes down to adjusting risk, right?
Right.
The more repairs the property needs and the lesser neighborhood quality the property is in, the more demanding I am on price, meaning and cap rate is not a single family rental term, but everybody understands cap rate.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to use cap rate even to talk about single family. So if I'm in a C grade neighborhood, I'm looking for a certain cap rate based on repairs needed and neighborhood grade.
Yeah.
If I go to a D grade neighborhood, my cap rate requirement is going to go up, and it's all a risk adjustment. That's what people don't always get. Why do you need a higher cap rate in this neighborhood? Well, because the tenant quality is less, the occupancy term is lower, the repairs needed on a tenant turn are greater. All of the things, the risk of rehab and theft increases in a lower quality. So all of these things come into play, which makes me say, you know what? I need to buy at a more aggressive, lower price, higher cap rate, because then when Murphy shows up and I got to spend more money to do something, I land where I want to be, even if I bought more aggressive.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it makes me feel all warm and fuzzy because that's exactly where I bought my house is at. The purchase price was 40 and rehab was about 20, and then rents now they've actually gone up since I've made the purchase, but are about $1,000. So it makes me feel good.
Yep.
But I've also, you brought up mobile home parks, and I've been looking at a lot of them, and they're also very intriguing because, Warren Buffett made billions off of them, so it's obviously a smart investment choice.
Yep.
And so, we're coming up on an hour here, so I don't want to take too much of your time. But when you look at mobiles, because I'm super intrigued by them right now, when you look at mobile parks, are you looking for, because there's, for those that don't know, there's lot-owned mobile parks, there's unit-owned mobile parks, and there's mixed parks. Is there a specific park you're looking for, and why?
I like to own the dirt.
Okay.
I like to own the dirt, and I like to own whatever homes on top of the dirt I need to own.
Okay.
If people abandon it, if it's vacant when I would buy it, like I'm okay owning the home on the dirt, but I'm going to probably sell that owner financing as quickly as possible, because what I really want is the dirt cash flow.
No headache.
It's no headache.
Yeah. Okay. So will you buy them not compliant with those rules and then convert it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And, again, looking for, here's what I find as an investor. It becomes really easy to become an investor once you define what you want.
Yeah.
Define what your objective is and what you want. Like, that's why I can rip off exactly what I want for a single family purchase. I can tell you exactly what I want for a mobile home. I can tell you exactly what I want for a park. I can tell you exactly what I want for any type of investment asset. I can tell you what I want.
Yeah.
And then I build the box of acquisitions around it, right? And I go try to find that thing.
Yeah. It's awesome. Okay, so this conversation can go on forever, but I believe you have a software that I've heard about, FreedomSoft. Can you explain that to us?
Yeah, absolutely. So FreedomSoft, Brandon, is a real estate investing software. It was originally launched way back in 2010. And I bought it from the guys that originally started it in 2015, and I've rebuilt it from scratch. So I ripped it apart and just said, because I bought it as a business. I didn't buy it. When I bought it, I didn't buy it because of the product. I bought it because it was a business. It had bones, and I knew that I could reinvest the cash flow into making it everything it needed to be. And so we've done that. I've rebuilt probably 95% of FreedomSoft over the last 5 years. And today it's really broken into three things. It's a lead generation and data software.
Okay.
It's a CRM and insights software, and it's a follow-up and automation software. So it allows you to tap into and do any kind of lead gen, lead sourcing, building lists, managing your list, finding data. We've got Lead Finder built into it, which I download the entire nationwide database of all residential to single family, condos, townhomes, the whole thing. Every couple of weeks, we update our database. And so we've got a full lead gen suite inside with marketing tools, text, phone, direct mail, offer systems all built in. Then the CRM, I'm a big believer in this. Because I've been doing this for too long, and when Podio came on the scene for everybody jumped on the bandwagon, and then everybody, like, they have all this automation, but you know what happens if you don't first organize your business and you just start with automation? You automate chaos, and so I'm a huge build it organized guy. So our CRM is all about organizing around lead campaigns, and then giving a CEO level insight into lead management. And then our follow-up and our automation is the thing that, 66% of our deals, 2/3 of our deals, we close not necessarily on the first contact. It's because of follow-up, right? The margins in your mouth and the fortunes in your follow-up. And so we've got the automation tools built into FreedomSoft to allow you to leave no lead behind, if you will. And so that's FreedomSoft, man. It's a powerful system.
And your follow-up, is it auto sending direct mail based upon a certain task you press, or is it calls, text, or how does that follow up?
Yeah, all of the above. So we have built into the system a ton of functionality. What people, if they knew FreedomSoft in the early days to look at FreedomSoft today, it's a fully customizable platform. We've got land guys run it. We've got home builders using it. We've got wholesalers. We've got guys in multiple markets. We've got guys single markets with big teams. And so it's very robust. The follow-up stuff, we have a workflow system built into it. So when a lead comes in, by managing your leads to status, you can trigger all sorts of actions to happen based on those statuses. And so you set up your workflow, and you set up and customize any of your statuses, and then you can customize all of the actions around those statuses to start, stop, and do everything else. And so direct mail is built in. Like I said, the full phone system is built in. So one of the things that we allow people to do, and they say it all the time, is, man, I get to cancel my DocuSign account because we've got built-in document signing. I get to cancel my websites. I get to cancel my phone system. I get to cancel all of these things because it's a holistic platform that just makes it's all integrated already. There's no integration that's going to break and screw your business up. Right.
That's incredible, because starting from scratch, find the sites, the Mojo Dialer, the Podio, all these different things, and then figure out a system to remind yourself to do this, this, and this.
Yep.
And then downloading this Excel form or CSV file and uploading it to click to mail, and then Lord, it can be a giant pain in the rear. And I had Podio systems, and they're super complicated.
Simple. Yeah. There's three words that I always say in business, man, and I've been saying this for years: simple, system, scale. My three favorite words. And the reason I say that is if you keep it simple, you and someone else can do it.
Yeah.
If you build a system, you and someone else will do it.
Yeah.
And then if you get out of the way of those two things, your business can scale and you can enjoy the lifestyle and the freedom that we all want. And so that's what FreedomSoft is about. You know, we get guys that are brand new to real estate investing. They don't have a pre-informed something of what they want. They won't even know what they want if you ask them.
Right.
They get into FreedomSoft and it's set and ready to go in 3 minutes, and they just start using it. And then we've got guys like our biggest user runs in 8 markets, and he's got a team of 50 sales guys. Jeez. And he uses FreedomSoft, and he's fully customized it. He set all of his permissions. He runs all of his markets and his entire sales team off of the FreedomSoft platform, our internal phone system, and all of our lead management tools. And he loves it. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, the famous saying, keep it simple, stupid. I mean, that's my motto is keeping BS task and people out of my life. And if I can keep it all simple, that's my goal. Because as you've seen on Facebook, I love traveling and just doing whatever I want. And if I leave and I've got problems back at home, it doesn't make those trips very exciting anymore if you're having to worry about those things. So
for sure, man. That's right. That's right.
Okay. Well, before we jump topic, where can people find that software?
Yeah, they can just go to freedomsoft.com and freedomsoft.com. And if they want to see a live demo training that I do where I literally build a list, launch a lead campaign, and get sellers and buyers contacting me in literally under 9 minutes, they can go to freedomsoft.com/presentation. freedomsoft.com/presentation.
Okay.
And that'll drop them right on there.
Okay. Awesome. And then being as we're both advocates of freedom, what's the next plan, adventure, vacation, epicness?
Yeah, man. My wife and I we're healthy. We like to eat healthy. We like to be healthy. We like to stay healthy. We've spent our last couple trips. We've gone down to Costa Rica. We love it down there. The food is great. The people are friendly. And so we've been up in the Guanacaste, which is the peninsula northern region. And our next trip, we're going to go down into the sort of Central Valley south of San Jose.
Yeah.
I'm looking for a plane to buy too, man. Like that's my next big thing is, I recently got my private pilot license. And now it's about finding the plane that I want that's going to support the mission. And the mission is travel and freedom, man.
Have you seen, it's a little pricey. Have you seen the Kodiak 100?
Yeah.
Holy crap. That thing is amazing. I had no idea there was a single prop plane that could do the distance, the fuel, the speed, and the carry. I saw a picture. You can carry 2 dirt bikes and mountain bikes and a freaking kayak in there. It's like literally dream come true plane. Right. But I think I was looking at price and it's like 1.2 million. So I've got some work to do, but that in a small, like 2 or 4 seater, pretty quick plane, I don't know what that looks like, but that's, and maybe, well, I have a lot of goals, but like a little bush plane, like Kit Fox or something along those lines. But if I got the Kit Fox for me, just mess around in the woods, the little fast plane that has some fun in the sky, and then the family Kodiak 100, game over. I'm happy.
Yep. Yeah, that's it, man. I mean, right now, my mission is to fly from my house. The airport's for my house, and I want to fly to Durango. It's a 6 to 6.5 hour drive from where I live down to Durango, Colorado, Southeast Colorado. It's just beautiful. If you've never been to Durango, you need to go to Durango. It's awesome. Yeah.
I've driven through.
My mission is get over the rocks and safely get to Durango. And then my secondary mission, and I think I have to buy a plane based on the secondary mission, because the secondary mission plane will accomplish the first get to Durango.
Yeah.
It's really cross country, and it's flying out, to real estate that I own, to family that lives elsewhere, see my daughter on the East Coast. And so you gotta balance speed, payload, fuel burn efficiency, all of that stuff. And that's where I'm at, man. I'm weighing it all out.
It's awesome. I can't wait. I can't wait to see it. Can't wait to finish my license. I don't know, 5 or 6 hours away, and I need to study more. Actually, I got my books over here. Got to get to. I hate studying. It drives me nuts. That's why I never finished college. Is just good Lord.
Yeah.
So that's my deal. If I can go land in some remote field in the middle of the Sierra Nevadas or somewhere up in British Columbia, that'll be my happy place. And then if I can take the family to a decent vacation, I'd be pretty happy. Be dream come true. But
awesome, dude. Awesome.
And then I always ask everybody one question at the end: is if you had 6 months to live, what would you do with it?
Oh man, that's a good question. If I had 6 months to live, I would spend obviously a lot of time with my family. I would spend time probably down on a beach or in a jungle in a remote setting, maybe Costa Rica with my family down there. And I would spend a lot of time documenting the lessons that I've learned. I've learned as I've gotten older that the guys that are 10, 20 years ahead of me have gone through and learned things that I need to learn from. Yeah. When I was younger, I thought I knew it all. And then as you get older and experience, you kind of realize, oh, wow, those guys have experienced things that I haven't known. So I've spent a lot of time before he passed away talking to my grandpa because he just knew stuff that I didn't know and had experienced. Right. And so I would probably document a lot of things that I have learned to pass on to my kids and grandkids so that doesn't get lost. Yeah,
no, it's incredible. That's awesome. And actually, I was thinking about Costa Rica while you're saying that. That's and I haven't. Well, maybe I have been there. No, Puerto Rico. Costa Rica. I've heard that's one of the safest, family-friendly South American country. Is that right? With jungles?
Yeah, we have not ever felt unsafe in Costa Rica. Every time we've been there, we rent a car. Yeah. We have driven through the mountains and the jungles, and really? People are just friendly. I've never felt unsafe. That's
awesome. I'll have to bring the girls down there. That's cool because I love mountains, but I like, like the Phoenix Mountains are, deserty, but ultimately when it comes down to it, the mountains have got to be green. And jungles, every time I go to the jungle, I'm like, this is so awesome. Yeah. Because you just can't stop staring at all the greenery, the life, the everything, the smells. So I think Costa Rica is one of my on my bucket list to make it out to.
Yeah, Costa Rica is fun. I mean, you can go from the mountain jungles to surfing in 10 minutes, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, then you should get your paramotoring certificate. That's one of my short-term goals. Do a little hike up to the top, throw on the parachute and the motor, and just cruise down to the beach. And that'd be the dream right there. That'd be sweet.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. Okay, so we got your FreedomSoft webpage here. How can people, if you want, how can people reach out to you if they have questions or what they want to learn more about FreedomSoft or something?
Yeah, so go check it out. Go check out FreedomSoft at freedomsoft.com. People want to connect to me. I'm pretty active on Facebook. They can find me on Facebook. Just search Rob Swanson, and I'm around. I'm easily accessible.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for all the knowledge. I'm sorry for taking over an hour of your time, but I learned a ton. I'm super excited about trying to figure out a mobile market so I can move out of Texas and get some climbing on. And I appreciate it. Thanks a ton.
Awesome. You got it, man. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Rob.